There was no wise guys. Where were you going in life?
Absolutely a fireman like my father. You know, he had bigger plans and aspirations for me. He put me in college. I went to John Jay College.
Mhm.
He thought that whatever I got involved with, whether it was law enforcement or fire department, having John Jay background would help me excel and move up. He knew me, he knew my ways, and I would want to excel. And no matter what I did, unfortunately, I went that way, and
Right.
I excelled there too to some extent.
Right.
But he also saw early on that I wasn't a bookworm. I was smart. I could get the things done. I got good grades without working hard. So he didn't really think about law or medicine, that type of thing, but practical thinking.
Right.
Be a fireman and become a chief. And that's
Right.
what my plan would have been. I would have absolutely been on a fire department. I took the test. I got a 99. So I was high on the list to start with. I got a 95 on the physical, which really put me high up. And took the test at 18. I believe you couldn't get on until you were 20. And I would be able to do some schooling and maybe work my way up. So what happens while I'm waiting for that, I have various jobs. I was always a hustler. I worked, I did different things. I was a busboy a little younger. I worked in a grocery supermarket. And that's actually where it turned because I met a woman that was a little older than me. She was probably about 30-ish. I was 17. And there was a mutual seduction. Me being younger, I was probably on the seduced side more. But I hate to say that because I wasn't a dummy. I mean, I knew.
Right.
And
Right.
it's something I was happy. I wanted it to happen. Uh, so when I wound up with her name's Linda, we had an affair. And as time was going on, we started caring for each other. As months were going by, and it was more than just a one night stand. Obviously,
Right.
it was almost 10 years. I wound up being with her.
Wow. Wow.
To fast forward, but at that time, she took a very deep concern for my life and my future. So she said her husband, to cut to the chase. Eventually, I found out she was married, and now we were sneaking around, whatever. She told me that he's got a lot of friends, he's influential, and he's opening up this company. And I think you'd be great as the marketing director, sales manager was actually the position, sales manager. I was marketing director later on in life,
Yeah.
a sales manager. And I remember I had this little bit of a lull. I had a couple of years to wait. So this was the first time I would actually meet her husband. She says, let's go out with him one night. And I want him to meet you and he'll hire you as the sales manager. So I told her, I don't have any experience in sales, this and that. I'm naive. She says, don't worry about it. He can do it. He can do it. So I go. And just before I'm about to meet him, like a week or two, the fire department test that I took, there was a lawsuit against it. So now a judge has it, and it winds up taking him 2 years to decide, which is normal for courts, as I learned later on. Nothing works fast.
Right.
So it made it easier for me to take this position as the sales manager. So I went, and I meet Greg Scarpa for the first time. He's known as the Grim Reaper later on. And when we go to the restaurant, as soon as we walk in, well, I already knew from when I met him at the house. I saw the way he walked, the way he dressed, sunglasses at night. I mean, I've said in places, if you opened up the dictionary, the mobster, his picture would be there. He had that look. And I wasn't, I was from Brooklyn, so I knew some wise guys in the neighborhood. My own Uncle Albert was one. And he gets this royal treatment when he walks in the door. Everybody came over, kisses, hugs, brings him to his table, wine's already waiting. And the owner comes out of the kitchen to say hello. You get the picture.
Yeah.
So I know this guy's a serious, important guy.
Right.
Now the partners in the company, it's called Hewlett Supply Company. We start out by servicing fire extinguishers in all these storefronts, then leave our business card and a sales approach to get their paper products, cleaning products, get in the door, and we'll sell all this stuff. So when the partners come in, I'm already sitting at the table. He introduces me as the new sales manager, just like that. He didn't give them my credentials. He didn't say I would like to propose him. I would nothing. He just made clear this is the new sales. And they all shook my hand. Congratulations. So now I'm a sales manager of a company, just like that. And that's what really opened the door, because now his club on 13th Avenue, the social club, was the headquarters. So after I finished doing my job every day, which was a real job, they would give me a list of stores to go to. And this is funny because I said it a few times. Yeah. I would go to the stores that were on the list. They couldn't do enough for me. You know, I thought I was a great salesman, but they knew it was Greg's company and they weren't going to say no. So now he tells me to branch out and go to the surrounding stores. Like if you go to this supermarket, go next door, there's a hardware store. Go next door to the restaurant. Those people I wasn't a good salesman. They says, no, I'm okay. I got a company.
Yeah.
So I would go back to the club every day. And when I told him none of the new places were on board, he calls somebody, calls Carmine in. I want you to go see this guy at the hardware store. Go see this guy at the restaurant. The next day I go back, I was a good salesman again. Yeah. I sold. They bought everything from me. And then we would go. We started on 13th Avenue. Then we went to 18th Avenue. The first time I met Sammy the Bull, he had to let him know I was going to be in this area. If any help he could give us. Sammy was a pleasure. He couldn't do enough for us. Then we would go down even to Avenue U, Nicky Black. Even then, he wasn't a nice guy, but he just said, whatever, just go do what you got to do.
Right.
But he wasn't as helpful as some other guys. That's really what did it. I was in a lull of the time. If they would have called me and I would have been in the, Delahanty or the rookie place, wherever they go for a year of training, I would have been there. Nothing would have changed. Yeah. But with this lull in front of me, and I remember telling my father, I could take this job in the meantime. It sounds like a good job. And I did well. I had a good year, run with it, 6 months, 8 months, whatever it was. And they saw I was earning money. I had a nice car. Nobody thought anything was wrong, you know?
Right.
But here I was meeting up with him every day, and he was taking a liking to me. And there was a lot that happened. I wound up figuring out in my own mind later on when he confided that he had a wife in New Jersey. He had another girlfriend named Lily who he's married to. He has all these wives all around the country. Once we got to the point where he sat me down and discussed the situation with me and Linda and said it was okay, which was very, very nerve-wracking.
What's going through your mind in that process?
Linda was sort of leading me down this path, letting me know that she wants me to meet him. She wants to let him know about us. And I'm saying, how could you do that? I mean, now that I know him, he's my friend. Now it's even worse. Right. When I didn't know him, it still was a wrong thing to do, but I didn't, how many guys would say no? Really, it is what it is. But now that he was my friend and he was helping me in business, I'm backstabbing him. I said, I can't go on like this. Yeah. So I think somewhere along the way, she told him, and because he took a liking to me, and I think I was making his life easier. Mm-hmm. When he was out traveling around in Vegas with one, in Jersey on weekends with the other, in Manhattan, so there's 3-4 nights a week. He was just not around. And guys like that get away with it. They say, I got business, I got meetings. Okay. So the day we left the house that he was going to eventually tell me, I sensed something. Because when we were in the house, he was saying, "Larry, you're not the same." He says, "Something's bothering you. You want to talk to me? I mean, I just don't feel you're the same guy. You're like paranoid. You're always worried. You don't show up at meetings." And I wasn't. There were things that happened that I didn't go. I said, he's going to kill me. Yeah. And she would yell at me on the phone and say, he would never do that. What's wrong with you? So on the way, he tells me, he starts out with that. And he says, I want to have this discussion with you because I think you're old enough mentally. You're a mature young guy. And I think you can handle it. So I know where he's going. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying to myself, I will never, ever, 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 ever admit it. Never. I'll never admit it. So we get to the club, and we always got there early. We get there 12:30. The rest of the guys would come about 1. It was almost the hours, 1 to 5. Everybody had to be there. Yeah. We would get there 12:30. We walk into the back, just me and him, and he's still talking. We sit down. He goes behind the desk, and he says, continues on this path. And he said, I just want you to be the Larry that I got to know. I don't want you, he said, what I'm going to tell you now, you got to trust me and believe me from my heart. I love you like a son. I mean, it's very convincing. He says, I know about you and Linda. So I don't know what came over me to this day. I always said I wouldn't admit it, but I looked at him and I says, Greg, I have a lot of respect for you, and you're far from an idiot. I says, but only an idiot will see what was going on. And he laughed. He walked me out to the front, put his arm around me. And when we got to the front of the building, he says, I'm okay with it. He says, but he says, if anybody outside of the three of us finds out, he says, you and I will be killed. Now I'm 18.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing I could be murdered.
Mm.
It was very, later on I understand that's a rule, and it's a rule that makes sense just in any walk of life, really. Yeah. But he told me that, and like ice cold, you and I will be killed. That whole day, I was like out of my body. I say, this isn't normal. Right. This isn't normal to get approval from any husband, much less the Grim Reaper. It just, so, but I also felt the weight of the world off my shoulders. And it opened the door for me and him to get very, very close. He would tell Linda, yeah, this beautiful girl came to see Larry today. And I'm like, going, why? What is he starting trouble for on top of it? But we got that close, right. Where, and I think, like I said, it helped him in his lifestyle. If you think about it, he was like 50, she was 30, I was 18.
Yeah.
So, and he's juggling his life around. So 30 years old is a possibility. She would not want to sit home every night.
Right.
So it's better she's not seen out in nightclubs, knowing it's Greg's girl, Gumato, whatever you want to call it,
right.
common-law wife,
right.
Whatever people thought. So I think ultimately that's what happened. And it just enabled us to get very, very close, because it's a secret only 3 people had. It kept quiet. Nobody ever questioned it. Because it was dangerous.
Greg Scarpa is almost someone that Hollywood couldn't have made up.
Marty Light was an attorney, and he started dabbling somehow in the cocaine business, whether it was because of an addiction and he had to use it and sell it to keep up with his habit. But somehow or another, he got trapped in that circle, and he gets arrested. So the feds interview him because he immediately cooperated, and they knew he was a Colombo family lawyer. So they wanted to get his view on all the major players in the family. And the funny thing is, we're watching the official interview on tape in Greg's living room. There's about 8 guys sitting there. I think we were having popcorn like we were watching a movie, and he got it. Nobody really questioned how he got it. We just, to us, it was part of his allure. Nobody would think for a second because he's in bed with them, the feds.
Right.
So we're watching it, and Marty Light, this is almost verbatim. When they get to, and tell us about Greg Scarpa, he goes, oh. He says, Greg, he's handsome, articulate, charismatic. He could sit with lawyers and judges. He can have dinner with you, and for dessert, he'll kill you. So he went through this whole thing of a nice, you would think of a CEO, a nice businessman, and then you get to dessert, he'll kill you. That's what he said. I knew Greg very, very, probably better than anybody, including his own kids, because there's things he wouldn't talk to them about, especially our relationship. So it was able to just talk to me about everything. And I saw that, not the 2 sides of him, because that's not a good way to describe it. I saw him in his lethal worst, where there was no stopping. Guy's going to get killed, whether it's in broad daylight, if I got to go in his house, if I got to get him at the restaurant where he works, whatever. There's nothing that's going to stop him. Okay. Then there was the guy that would listen to me when I was sort of his second hit, his right-hand man. Now I grew up a little bit, and he knew I was smart. I went to school. I come from a good background. So he trusted my judgment. I wasn't into drugs or anything like that. I was always training, working out, all the things that you would like a young man to be doing. He would listen to advice. He would listen and maybe say, you know what, you're right. And early on, there was a lot of that. You're right. You're right. Let's rethink this. And we drive on and talk about it another day. So I got that close to him where I could be his alter ego almost.
Right.
That's the best way to put it. Where nobody else could talk or would even try.
Right.
But I was God's father to his son now. I was, when his daughter was a sweet 16, I was one of the candles. I was that close to the family now. I was like part of the family.
Yeah.
So he listened, but the one thing I did learn as time was going on, even when I was close with him, I really never saw an authentic, true love for anybody. I always saw that act like the person is so precious to him. But, father, if your kid is that precious to you, you do not, by any circumstance, any stretch of the imagination, allow him to get into the drug business.
Right.
I don't care who you are.
Right.
You don't allow things. I don't think any of his kids ever went on a vacation, a family vacation with him. Like I remember going to Montauk. That was a big trip for the family, but we went and spent the weekend. Or Disney World in Florida. It was a big deal. My father was a fireman, but he saved up, and we went with my Uncle Albert and his family. I remember vacation. It's like there was never any memories other than him giving them money. And maybe that's what they thought love was. But I saw it in him. I saw the only thing he truly loved was his money. So people say, yeah, but he was a family man. How many families do you have to be a family man? He had 4 families. That makes you a family man. You had a wife in Jersey, a wife in Vegas, So I never really understood those arguments that were trying to make him like some kind of family man. I never saw it.